tonight, we break down how the province will spend money on new police officers, how robots are filling the healthcare gap for patients in Saskatchewan's north, and we take you to the CFL Combine in Regina.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, March 21st, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. The latest provincial budget has a big focus on public safety, and that includes millions of dollars for new police officers in Saskatchewan. Dane Patterson has more on how that will be broken down.
This government's continued commitment to making our communities safe for families, wherever you live in Saskatchewan. And it really can be summed up in two words: recovery and enforcement.
Saskatchewan's public safety budget shows new police positions are coming. Some were teased last fall in the government's election platform. It reinforces Saskatchewan's revitalized focus on drug enforcement.
Those boots on the ground will really help with the detection of that type of crime. We're making policy changes and introducing legislation to allow our officers to enjoy more tools to locate and remove dangerous drugs from our community.
14 new personnel will be hired for the Safer Communities and Neighborhoods team, 50 positions for its soon-to-launch Provincial Marshal Service, and about 100 new provincially funded city police officers. The RCMP will also receive an $8 million increase from last year's budget.
We are committed to funding the full 100 new officers as quickly as those municipalities are able to recruit them in.
Those new municipal positions were announced last year. Regina is expecting 32 frontline officers. The Marshal Service is expected to be up and running by the summer, but the opposition sees issue with how the province has spent money on the service so far.
The reality is that we've not seen the boots on the ground that have been promised. We've seen them invest in more bureaucracy.
McLeod anticipates 70 officers a part of the Marshal Service in total. 50 of those are expected to be active by the end of the next fiscal year. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The province's film and TV grant has been cut by $2 million. Wednesday's budget reduced the money given to Creative Saskatchewan's feature film and television production grant. That brings the base funding for 2025-26 to $10 million a year. The Saskatchewan Media Production Association says the cut is disappointing, but it's not as dire as it seems. Cynthia says the money coming this year is still 5 times higher than 3 years ago.
This is an interesting time. All industries, I think, have to come together with what's going on in terms of our sovereignty. So, we're disappointed, but I believe in general we understand that everybody has to contribute to get through this year.
Cynthia also says this coming summer will be one of the busiest production seasons in Saskatchewan in years. Healthcare workers say despite Wednesday's budget investments, healthcare is still being underfunded in Saskatchewan. The opposition held a news conference Friday pointing to Saskatchewan's surgical wait times, saying it's an indicator more needs to be done. The NDP says it can take months for patients to get surgery. It also noted long wait times in emergency rooms as another chronic issue. One registered nurse says hiring more nurse practitioners would ease the burden.
Team-based care needs to become the standard for providing primary care across the province, and not only limited to 5 announced patient medical care homes. When we lack meaningful investment in primary care, we see a downstream effect of increased emergency room visits and hospital admissions. These admissions and some of these emergency visits could easily be prevented if people had somewhere to go.
In its budget, the province committed to adding 27 nurse practitioners to rural and remote communities, but Hudson says there's no funding specifically for incentives to recruit and retain people. She's also disappointed no nurse practitioner positions were added in urban areas. Health officials have confirmed a second case of measles in Swift Current, and they're now investigating a third suspected case. The Saskatchewan Health Authority says one case involves an unvaccinated child, but it hasn't confirmed the vaccination status of the 2 adults in the other cases. One doctor says it's important to be vigilant.
Measles is here. Measles is everywhere right now, across the world, across the country, and on all of our borders, pretty much, at least east, west, and south. And measles is a very serious disease. Measles spreads very, very easily, is very contagious, and can be a very serious illness, especially if you're not immunized. The vaccine is your best way to get protection. The vaccine is way over 90% effective.
The first case in Swift Current was reported last week. It was the second reported case in Saskatchewan in the last 5 years. Tor says the cases are likely connected to international travel, but an increase in cases means local spread is possible. The Saskatchewan Liquor and Gaming Authority has released the brands of alcohol it will stop buying from the U.S. The province announced the move earlier this month in the wake of U.S. tariffs. The brands include widely distributed beers like Budweiser, Coors, and Busch. It also extends to mixed drinks like Twisted Tea and Rockstar Vodka. But the move is getting some pushback from the restaurant industry. One group says the brands being pulled are some of the most popular in Saskatchewan restaurants, and it wants the government to reverse its decision.
There's so many different brands that are captured by this that really limit our ability to offer our guests some sort of choice when it comes to beers and when it comes to products. And what our members just don't understand is, why are we taking this now out on Canadian products?
Von Shelwitz says while many of the affected beer brands are headquartered in the States, they're brewed in Canada, often with barley from Saskatchewan. He says this will add to the already mounting financial pressures restaurants are facing. Well, just days ahead of an expected election call and after trips to Europe and Canada's north, Prime Minister Mark Carney held his first meeting with provincial and territorial premiers Friday. They talked about strengthening the Canadian economy by eliminating interprovincial trade barriers by July 1st. It's all in light of the trade wars with the U.S. and China.
It's a time where we want to take risk. We have to take risks, we have to make investments, and we have to do things that we hadn't imagined possible before at a speed that we haven't moved before. And one aspect of that is we need builders, and it's part of the reason why earlier today we've brought back the level of the capital gains tax so that those who take those risks get the rewards from those risks that are there.
The Prime Minister held the meeting at the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa, highly symbolic as First Ministers strategize our nation's response to the economic war being waged by two superpowers. China has put a new 100% tariff on Canadian canola products after hitting our pork and seafood with 25% levies. That as Donald Trump slapped a 25% tax on our steel and aluminum, with more U.S. tariffs expected April 2nd. All that as the American president continues to threaten our nation's sovereignty, saying he really means it when he says he wants Canada to become the 51st state. And Premier Scott Moe was part of Friday's call with Carney. Moe told media before the call that he hoped the PM would address Chinese canola tariffs. On the Morning Edition's political panel, columnist Murray Mandrick said the provincial government's recent budget should have done more to account for tariff impacts.
Jim Ryder, who's as good a retail politician as I think there is in Saskatchewan right now, and certainly there is in the government side, basically says a budget is a snapshot, a point in time. No, it's not. It's about what it's supposed to look like a year from now, and you're supposed to abide by the cost. You cannot abide by the costs, as Jeremy just explains, if those costs are going to include tariffs. You got to build that in. And that's what everybody was talking about in the rotunda. And this is what the government missed. So the work of fiction part is the fact they didn't even attempt to basically budget. They just offered this fairy tale of the world as if we don't have tariffs. And I think that is in essence the problem. Everybody in Saskatchewan, everybody in the rotunda, and you were down there doing the interviews, so you saw this themselves, raise the issue independently of reporters asking about, well, what about the tariffs? How are they going to affect things?
An Ontario court has given Canada's oldest company permission to liquidate all but 6 of its stores. The approval allows Hudson's Bay to begin selling off inventory at the bulk of its 80 stores starting Monday. The retailer also owns 3 Saks Fifth Avenue stores and 13 Saks Off Fifth locations in Canada through a licensing agreement. The 6 Bay stores being saved from the liquidation sale include the flagship location on Yonge Street in Toronto, as well as a store in the city's Yorkdale Mall and another at Hillcrest Mall in nearby Richmond Hill. The remaining 3 are within the Montreal region. Well, the water may still be frozen over Wascana Creek in Regina, but it will soon be flowing as spring-like temperatures are in our forecast. But in the meantime, it is still a bit on the chillier side, and that could last us another day or so. Weather specialist Riley Lachuk will have a look at our forecast when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Communities in northern Saskatchewan are pioneering a new way to deliver health care in isolated areas, bringing robots into hospitals and clinics. The technology is helping patients get care quicker and avoid costly travel to major cities. And as Alexander Silberman shows us, it could be a model for rural communities across Canada.
The journey to Saskatchewan's far north is a striking reminder of the sheer isolation, with only the fringe of this region accessible by road. In all its beauty, the remoteness is what draws people to live here and makes it a struggle to see a doctor. But this small hospital in Stony Rapids is now on the front lines of a solution.
Daniel?
Yep.
All right. How are you?
Good.
Daniel Powder is here for an ultrasound,
So have you ever had an ultrasound before?
a screening that would often require a flight south.
I'll let you get situated there.
But today, he can stay in the north.
Then we have Cheryl.
And the ultrasound machine is robotic, controlled by a specialist from Saskatchewan through a computer.
Good, you can breathe.
You got results right away.
What's it like to be getting healthcare from someone that you're just seeing like through a screen?
Like, technology is going a long ways, and I figured, that was really something.
Hold it in.
This model of remote healthcare is part of Saskatchewan's Virtual Health Hub project. It's using technology to offer remote healthcare to Indigenous and isolated communities, developing robotic devices for everything from x-rays to wound care.
I think this is going to be a game changer for all remote, rural, isolated communities.
Brittany Olson works as a nurse for the Virtual Health Hub. She's the link between the patients she sees in person in First Nations communities and specialists who provide care remotely.
You have quicker diagnosing and treating of the patient's conditions, and it's just overall the health outcome for this person is significantly increased. They're going to Saskatoon to have a little one, or maybe they're sick. They need their support system, so being able to provide care within the community, they could have their support system here.
Like many northern communities, the small airstrip here in Stony Rapids is a vital link to healthcare, but also a barrier to timely access. The hope is that treating patients in their own communities with the help of technology will make care easier to reach, even if the doctors are still hundreds of kilometers away.
Value of this is that you don't increase the work burden on the other side.
In Saskatoon, this office acts as a command center for virtual healthcare, testing new devices like this robot. It lets a doctor virtually into a hospital room, while an in-person assistant can use sensors and devices to gather more information. They're training people in remote communities to fill those roles.
Virtual care will never replace the physicians or the healthcare workers. The future is this hybrid model where in-person care and virtual care will be combined.
Dr. Ivar Mendez leads the Virtual Health Hub. He hopes the remote model will address a disparity, especially in northern Indigenous communities, which have higher rates of mortality, tuberculosis, and high blood pressure.
I really believe that technology can narrow this gap of inequity in the delivery of healthcare, not only in Saskatchewan, in Canada, but globally.
The next step is the opening of a new virtual health hub next year in Whitecap, Dakota Nation.
The communications.
Mendez envisions the hybrid care model, combining technology and doctors as the future of healthcare. He expects the model pioneered in the north will soon expand to other provinces, easing staffing shortages in cities and remote areas, and saving lives.
A little more to the staff.
Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Stony Rapids.
Well, it looks nice out there in Saskatoon, but a temperature a little on the chilly side, sitting at -7. And it looks like there might be a little more chilly weather to come. Weather specialist Riley Laychuk is here now with a look at our forecast. Hi, Riley.
Well, Ethan, probably a good time to remind you that I'm only the messenger here. Yes, a little bit of a colder day today across the province, and do expect that we'll be below seasonal as we head through much of the weekend, really, for most of us. Looking at some of our afternoon temperatures, our daytime highs today, for most of us, including Regina into Saskatoon, these were temperatures that we were actually at midnight. Let's fast forward into those afternoon temperatures, dropping to -6 for both Saskatoon and Regina through the afternoon hours. La Ronge at -12. These are several degrees colder than seasonal, but you can see where the jet stream kind of cuts across the province. Maple Creek at +12 this afternoon, Swift Current at +7. So still a little bit of warmth to be had across the province as we head into the weekend here. Looking at satellite and radar, high pressure has really pushed everything out of the way and has cleared us out throughout the daytime. So a mainly sunny day. Do expect as we get into the weekend, we'll start to get some cloud building back in and a little bit of snow as we head into the weekend as well. You can start to see the leading edges of precipitation starting to move into the southwest corner of the province. This in that warm pocket of air in the form of some rain, but as we head into the overnight hours and temperatures cool and it meets some of that cooler air, the potential for some freezing rain before we see that switch over to snow as we head into Saturday. So this is a weak Alberta clipper that has been struggling to form. It really does not materialize all that much. But as we get overnight into Saturday morning, there is that chance that we do pick up a dusting of snow in Regina and east into the Parkland. But what I am watching is this system that is developing in Montana, and you can start to see the beginnings of that, the northern flank of that precipitation poking up south of from the international border northward. And what this will do is spread some rain really across the southern part of the province, some snow as it meets some of that colder air the further east you go. I'm not expecting this to get into the Regina region, but there is that chance that we do maybe pick up a dusting as we head Saturday into the evening hours. Maybe out of some of this, a couple little bursts of snow here and there Saturday into Sunday, but by and large, we're looking at just a chance of flurries really for most of us throughout the weekend. Looking at snowfall potential, really centimeter to maybe you pick up 2 to 4. I think some of these numbers are on the high side for parts of southeastern Saskatchewan. That's where we have the best chance, I think, for some accumulating snow over the weekend, just because we are looking at some of those temperatures that are a bit on the cooler side as we head through the weekend here. So -7 in Regina first thing in the morning. Saskatoon waking up to a -9 for your Saturday. And again, some colder air in northern parts of the province. -1 into Regina for Saturday. Then we're back up above 0 and even up to +6 by the time we hit Wednesday. In Saskatoon, much the same, -4 for your Saturday. Chance of flurries. And Ethan, we're all the way up to 7 degrees. Very spring-like forecast as we head through next week.
And we will enjoy it. Thank you, Riley. Well, some amazing video for you now. It shows a very unlikely duo traveling together through New Zealand. The just-released video from the University of Auckland was actually shot in 2023, and it shows an octopus, yes, an octopus riding on the back of a shark. A research team was monitoring a feeding frenzy when they spotted a strange orange mass on a shark's head. But after a closer look, they realized it was in fact a coiled octopus hitching a ride on the huge predator. And of course, the nickname they gave it was Sharktopus. What else? The university calls it one of the strangest things its marine scientists have ever seen, and one of the strangest things we've seen too. Stay with us. We will be back after the break. Welcome back. Well, CFL training camps don't open up for another couple of months, but football is in the air in Regina. The CFL Combine is this weekend at the Cooperators Centre. The top draft-eligible Canadian players from across North America have gathered. They'll have interviews with all 9 CFL teams and undergo physical testing, some of which includes the 40-yard dash, vertical, shuttle run, and bench press. It's also a chance for some local players to shine on the national stage.
It made it a lot easier mentally for me. And then, yeah, it's cool that, I'm in the city I've played football in for, 6 years now, and all the pro coaches and scouts are here. And so, just showing the best I can in front of them, where I play, it's really cool. And
yeah, it's kind of been a dream since before I even knew really what football was. I knew I wanted to be on the Riders growing up here and going to games, but really wherever I go, be ready to get to work and do what I can do.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders hold the 5th overall pick. Training camps will open up across the CFL on May 11th.
All right, well, as we look into your forecast overnight into Saturday, the potential for some of us to maybe see some freezing rain, particularly extreme southern sections where some of that warm air meets some of that colder air with that Alberta Clipper that's been weak to form, maybe some freezing rain in there before it switches over to some snow overnight. -6 in Weyburn, Moosomin -14, Regina, Saskatoon around -10 overnight tonight, and there's some of that colder air into northern sections. Temperatures for many of us close to -20. Waking up tomorrow morning in northern parts of the province with maybe a few flurries here and there for places like Buffalo Narrows, La Loche. Temperatures the further west you go, closer to the freezing mark. In southern sections, waking up to a -7 in Regina. There's a little bit of precipitation making its way eastward through extreme southern sections throughout the day on Saturday once again. And Ethan, we're looking at temperatures, again, still below seasonal for most of us, but a little bit closer to the freezing mark.
Yeah, not too bad for the weekend. Okay, thank you, Riley. And that is it for us for this week. For more news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. And of course, you can always download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend.